And we're back. I am significantly more tired, but we're back.
It
For y'all, it'll be like a second. For me, it was like 3 hours.
almost seems like it.
Yeah. All right. Where did I leave off? Selkie is where we stopped. I remember.
Yeah.
Also, my brother thinks the name of that movie was Wolf Walker or something like that. Um, but yeah,
Wolfwalker?
yeah, something like that. A, it was it was based on an actual legend about people who became wolves in their dreams, which became wolves in real life. But it took a couple of liberties with it and added some of the
You know, that
lore.
honestly wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah,
I've seen the movie, but
I have not seen the movie.
I have I forgot what it was. It's some hunter type situation, and her daughter find the kid of the mother
Yeah, I remember
chosen.
that.
Yeah, but it turns out the mayor was the bad guy in the situation.
Yeah, you good?
Huh?
You good?
Yeah.
All right. So after Selkie on the list is Furbolg. Now, furbolgs are kind of weird. You might actually have to look up a picture of a furbolg because they're not your usual sort of creature. They're humanoid and they're large, like they're big, like on the verge of being the same size as the Goliath. In fact, I think in some canons they're considered giant kin, occasionally called forest giants. Um, Furbolg is Firbolg. Furbolg.
Firbolg.
Yep. What? You think they look funny?
I thought, would know. We were swinging my 2-year-old and the baby. We kind of swung him a little too high, and he bounced off the porch rail.
Oh, good lord. Careful now.
Anyway, yeah, I have some psychotic kids.
But yeah, this is a furbolg. It's sort of a really big elf with like fur and a and kind of some people say cow-like features.
How do you spell it again?
Firbolg.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that being like an elf-like creature.
Yeah, they're friendly forest giants until you upset them, and then they're a lot less friendly. In fact, there are horror stories
Yeah.
about the things that furbolgs do to people that upset them.
I can get that vibe as well.
Yeah. After them is just straight up fairy. Straight up fairies are a race in D&D. Not to be confused with pixies. That's a different thing. But fairies, they're a small
Fairies
humanoid.
and pixies are completely different. If
Yes.
you've ever watched The Fairly Odd Parents, you would know that.
I have watched Fairy Godparents, yes. Um, but yeah, fairies in D&D are small humanoids. Um, they don't always have wings, but they can make wings appear on their back that give them the ability to fly. They can also shrink themselves down to tiny so they can get to small places.
So the basic size of like a human,
No, actually, they're about
but
the size of a goblin. They're about 3 feet tall.
okay. but they can also shrink themselves to like the size of a keyhole.
Essentially,
We'll go
useful.
back to you.
They can also increase the size of something.
Thank you. Oh,
After that is Myconid, which is I got the particular race option that I use for this comes from Aloysius's Guide to Social Acceptance by Christopher Zito, which can be bought on Dungeon Masters Guild. The Myconid are mushroom people. Myconid are mushroom
Okay.
people. They are straight
Like
up mushroom.
Shroom from Mario.
They're just straight up mushroom people. Some of them have faces, most of them don't. They're just walking mushrooms.
I bet you they trip all the time.
They have this thing that they do because they can't actually speak. Whenever they're around other races, they release these rapport spores, which attach themselves to people so that they can hear the Myconid's thoughts.
Okay. Yeah, I've actually heard that term before. I don't know where I've heard that before, but I've heard that term.
The funny thing is, though, remember, you're hearing the Myconid's thoughts. This Myconid has never talked to a normal person, any kind of person before. They probably don't know what volume is.
Yeah, it's like getting in the car and the radio be turned up and you don't know it. And
Yup. Just turn on the radio, suddenly. Yeah, Myconids are both hilarious and scary when they're in large groups. They're kind of terrifying. They also have a habit of taking dead bodies, pulling them into the colony, covering them in mushrooms, and essentially using them as nurseries for baby Myconids. But they can control the dead body, so they just have mushroom zombies walking around their colonies.
huh.
Which, kind of creepy.
Yeah.
After Myconid comes...
I mean, at the same time, you know, you got zombie mushrooms walking around your colonies. I mean, it's kind of like a defense mechanism. I mean, if anything attacks, it's going to go after them first. I mean,
Yup. Next up is Dryad, which, do you know what a Dryad is?
I kind of know.
So the basic idea is it's a plant person. It is a
Okay, yeah.
It is a plant person. They bind themselves to trees and things and basically live off of the area that the tree is located in. Normally. There's also the dryads that sort of wander around, but most of the time they will lock themselves into a single location by picking a tree and deciding, this tree is my house, and then live inside the tree. Like, they will literally merge with the tree and become one with it.
Yeah, because dryads, all right. Okay, this goes back to Percy Jackson, of course.
Yes.
But they tempt the satyrs.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
They do, and then they hide in the trees when the satyrs come after them, and the satyrs either bash their heads in the tree or get really upset. And the dryads think
Exactly.
it's hilarious.
I think it's hilarious. Yeah.
They used to do it to Pan all the time, which is isn't that how we got stuck in the labyrinth?
I believe so.
I never got to that book, but I know it's a thing that happened.
If I'm not mistaken, that's how that happened. Yes.
The next one, and this is the last one for the Fey category, is the Pactling for Fey, which is essentially a tiefling, but Fey qualities instead of demonic or devilish.
Okay, so he's more like an elf Top.
Yeah, it's a Fey Pactling could probably be mistaken for an for a half elf. I have not properly gotten a race that I feel fits this yet. I have not found one that I feel properly goes where I want it to with it, but I'll find something eventually, and it is a thing that exists in my world, so that's why it's here.
Yeah.
Next is the Draconic category, which includes Dragonborn, which are
I'm
just
talking to a buddy from work.
Ready, what?
Yeah. All right,
Um,
you can continue. I'm sorry.
they're Dragonborn, which are just straight up dragon people.
Yes.
Just
Yeah.
just imagine a large human covered in scales with a dragon head. That's a Dragonborn. They come in 3 varieties: chromatic, metallic, and gemstone.
And is that what determines like what's kind of, I guess, armor?
Not exactly. Basically, it determines
Or skin type?
it determines what dragon you draw your power from. Chromatic Dragonborns are, in my world, the colors are red, blue, yellow, white, and black. There's also green Dragonborn, pink Dragonborn, gray Dragonborn, brown Dragonborn, purple Dragonborn, and orange Dragonborn. All of which get unique abilities based on the dragon they pull their lineage from. Metallic-wise, so far there's just the standard gold, silver, copper, bronze, and brass, I believe is the last one.
Okay.
And again, it determines what abilities you get from the dragons that you pull lineage from. The gemstone dragons are a lot rarer because a lot of them don't like gemstone dragons don't like interacting with people, let alone their own species. Gemstone dragons are very much lone wolf types. They don't really live in large. Most of them don't really live in large groups. Gemstone Dragonborns gain mostly they get psychic, force. They get a lot of different abilities. There's a radiant one, a necrotic one. Good lord. There's probably another one in there I'm forgetting. Their colors are sapphire, topaz, amethyst. I'm forgetting the other 2. But yeah, that's all of that. It's Dragonborn are a wild race to play as. They get a breath weapon that they can use up to proficiency bonus times per day. So at level 1, you can use it twice a day. You can just breathe like whatever element you're connected to, which is very cool. And depending on whether you're chromatic or metallic or gemstone, you also get an additional ability, but I can't remember what those abilities are off the top of my head. Weirdly enough, for whatever reason, Dragonborn, in most cases, don't get dark vision. Which is the ability to see in the dark, right?
Okay.
Yeah, for whatever
So they got night vision.
Huh?
They got night vision, pretty much.
Well, Dragonborn should have night vision, because dragons have it. Dragonborn don't, for some reason.
That's crazy.
It's very dumb, honestly. After that, we have Kobold, which... Kobolds in my world are usually only chromatic in color, And that's because of how kobolds were created in my world, which is essentially there was a so there is one initial dragon god who got injured during one of the big wars with the other gods,
Right.
and he created 3 more dragon gods.
Go get food. Yeah.
He created 3 more dragon gods. And one of them was good, one of them was evil, and one of them was neutral and didn't care. The good and evil one ended up got into a very big fight, and from their blood was born, from the metallic dragons, the first dragonborn, and from the chromatic dragons, the first kobolds.
It's okay. She's gonna get food.
And then all of the other types of dragonborn happened later, but kobolds have stayed very subservient to chromatic dragons and very seldom spread out beyond that, and so they haven't been able to obtain colors outside of just chromatic. It's believed that eventually they possibly could, but who knows.
Yeah.
And then there's something called a dragon blood, which is just my fancy way of saying a draconic bloodline sorcerer. Which is a
Pretty
specific,
much, yeah.
which is a specific subclass for sorcerer. Yes.
That's
And
actually kind of cool.
yeah, draconic bloodline sorcerer is super cool. Next up is the demi-human category. If that is an inappropriate term, I apologize, but it's
Demi-human?
demi-human. It essentially, in this case, means beast folk.
So that's like a human and a beast offspring.
Well, a human and a lycanthrope offspring in some cases. Other cases,
But yeah.
they're just naturally occurring species. But in some cases, yes. Also, in my world, beast folk can be as bestial or as human as you want them to be. The one place I draw the line is your beast folk should probably not be on all fours all the time.
Right.
The first up is tabaxi, which are cat people. Then there's Leonin.
That just sounds like a cat-like name.
Right. And then there's Leonin, which are traditionally just lion people, but in my world, Leonin is a catch-all term for just stronger cat people. Honestly.
Pretty much. I mean, in layman's terms, I mean, that's pretty much what it is.
They're basically, tabaxi are house cats. Leonin are wild cats.
Okay,
Is
yeah.
sort of what I go with, but the player can decide however they want it to go. There's the Canis, or wolf folk, in my world, which are dog people.
Yeah.
Which the race, the species option that I use for the wolf folk is the wolf folk species created by DM Tuz, once again, because his wolf folk had really cool abilities. The art is a bonus. Just don't... For anybody watching this, if you look up DM Tuz's Patreon and look up his Monster Girl series of races for D&D, don't look at them while you're at work. You will get in trouble. The thing is like, they're never explicit. Like, none of the stuff in it's explicit, but it is a little showy, you know?
So it's 18 plus, pretty much.
A little bit,
saying.
yeah. A little bit.
Adult content only.
Yeah, definitely. Next up is Shifter, which they are more directly connected to lycanthropes. These are people who can literally shift themselves into a more animal-like form. Like, most of the time they'll look completely normal, or maybe they'll have, like, a couple of animal features, but then they can shift and become just like full on werewolf. Shifter is basically what
Yeah.
you play if you really want to play a werewolf, but there isn't a werewolf race because werewolves are overpowered in D&D.
Sounds about right. If it's normal, then it's going to be overpowered.
Right? And then there's Centaur, which I don't think I need to explain what those are.
Half horse, half man.
Yes, half horse, half man. Man on top, horse on bottom.
I wonder exactly how it would be if it was reversed.
It looks weird. There's a
I mean, yeah, I've seen like the pictures and stuff of like people with horse heads, this, that, and the other. But like, what if the entire top half of your body was a horse form?
If I mean the closest thing I can think of is Gozuki from Japanese mythology, which is kind of just a man with a horse head again, but like that's about as close as we're ever gonna get to it. Again,
Centaurs are awesome.
my favorite joke is that TikTok I sent you. My
Oh my god,
his
yes.
dad was a centaur. His mother was a mermaid. He got the human half of both. My brother's a seahorse.
My brother's a seahorse. That was actually really good.
I loved it. It was so good. And just the wizard being like, I just have so many
But
more
I need
questions.
more.
I just have so many more questions.
I
After
mean, my
that,
brother's a seahorse. What else do you need to know?
after that is of course Minotaur.
Minotaurs half, or like a giant bull creature.
Yes, it's bull head body of a man. Sometimes it's like just a bull humanoid. However people want to run that, they can run it however they want. I'm not picky about it. Also, when it comes to Centaur specifically, I allow you to be something other than a horse if you wish. If you want to be a zebra centaur, go for it. If you want to be a donkey centaur, go for it. If you want to be a deer centaur, go for it.
That actually sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, the term is cervine centaur, if I remember correctly. And then...
But I mean, you say the word centaur, I honestly instantly think of a horse human.
Yeah, a lot of people do, but
Mix.
if you've ever played World of Warcraft, they had centaurs in that rather than being horse on the bottom, they were deer.
Yeah, I do remember that. I have dabbled in World of Warcraft.
After that comes harpies.
That term sounds familiar.
They're bird women.
Makes sense.
You know, like Yu-Gi-Oh! Harpy Lady Sister.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's where it is.
Yep. They're just bird women. They can either have arms or just have wings in place of arms. Oh, with or without hands. I leave that up to the player, and we will role play it accordingly. My mouth is very dry.
You want to drink you some water?
Mm. It ain't water, but it has water in it. So in my
Okay,
world...
sorry. I thought I heard a cow dying, but it was, I guess, somebody running. I'm really not sure what they're running. But it straight sounded like a cow or a goat dying.
That's funny. So there's harpies. In my world, there are harpies, and then there's Kinnera. Kinnera, you probably haven't heard of because they are a bit unique. I can actually post...
That I have not heard of.
Let me post you a picture of kind of what they look like. I gotta find it first. Oh, God. Where are you? Where are you, Talia?
Wait, you talking about Talia, Dottie, or Zeus?
No, Talia is the name I gave to an NPC in my other game. who happens to
Oh,
be a Kinnera.
I was
Uh,
about to say Talia. I know Talia,
um,
but I
to
guess I don't in this term.
to put it simply, a a Kinnera is essentially a bird centaur.
So it's
So where the head of
it's
a
like
so where the head of a
one
bird is
third
where the head of
in the
the
body of a person and the lower half of a like a horse or zebra or whatever.
in the case of the Kinnera, it is, you know where the head of a bird is?
Yeah.
Okay, replace that with a human torso and arms and head, and then it's just the bird from the waist down. It sounds kind of
Okay.
it sounds kind of funky looking. If I can find this freaking image, it'll make a lot more sense because honestly, it looks
Yeah,
better.
that definitely sounds funny looking.
Yeah, it looks better than it sounds. I just have to freaking find it.
So they've got arms and wings.
Well, actually, the Kinnera in my world don't. They have wings, but they're not meant for flying. They're meant to slow their descent from a jump because they live in a very rocky, canyon-filled region where they run across the land very quickly, to the point that they are very well known for delivery service.
Yeah, that would make sense. So it's like a messenger pigeon on crack.
Yes, except minus the flying.
That's why I said on crack.
Fair. Hang on, I think I'm gonna have to Google it again. Choco bo girl. Da 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 da. Ah, there it is. All right, I'm gonna show you this picture. Hang on, I'm gonna share my screen so you can see it. Give it a minute. But yeah, so there's a split between Harpies and Kinnera, and the split was essentially how they decided to worship their god. Harpies decided to ascend and take flight. Kinnera chose to humble themselves and run across the ground, essentially, is the religious reason that they are different. They're descended from the same species. They just look different now. The big picture is what you'll be looking at.
And now the dogs are chasing deer.
Have you gotten a look at the picture?
Okay, so they're more like ostrich type
Yes, they're very much more
people.
ostrich-like. I found this picture ages ago and freaking loved it. And I'm like, I want to make this a D&D race, so I did. And this has always been my representation of kind of just what it looks like. This image was drawn by Gamera 1985. If you go to anything that he has drawn, be careful because he draws a lot of NSFW. So, viewer be warned.
Not seen, forewarned.
Not safe for work. Honestly, this is one of the more tame
Yeah, that makes
images.
sense too.
This is one of the more tame images that he's come up with. I'm gonna close that one now. Um, after the harpies and Kinnera come the Kenku, which is another bird person, except this is literally a bird person. Just imagine a bird with no wings standing up on 2 legs with arms and a bird head, and it has feathers. That's a Kenku. They're traditionally supposed to be crows, but in my world they can be anything. They can be any kind of
It
bird.
sounds like a cuckoo.
Huh?
I said it sounds like a cuckoo. Like,
Yeah,
you know, from the clock.
I think that's what they were going for with the name. Kenku traditionally are supposed to have this thing where they can't talk, they can only mimic noises that they've heard. Most DM agree that's dumb and will eventually get very annoying, so most people homebrew that the Kenkus can talk normally.
Yeah, that would definitely make sense. Because, I mean, if you're sitting here trying to have a conversation, especially when it's like trying to figure out, hey, do I need to go left at the fork and go up the ridge and get a better vantage point, or go right at the fork and go straight into battle? And he's like, or something like that, and you can't understand him. I mean,
Yeah, it's a very weird. It was a very. It's like there's a lore reason for it, but like outside of, like even the creators of D&D are like, yeah, we understand why people homebrew this.
yeah.
Next up is the Tortle. The Tortle is pretty self-explanatory.
Obviously, I was about to say, obviously, he's some kind of turtle creature.
It's a turtle person. It is a. You ever watched Kung Fu Panda?
I sure have.
Oogway.
Yeah,
You know what a turtle is now. There's not much else to say.
I love it. Way.
Oogway's great. I love him. After that is rabbit folk, which again, self-explanatory. They're rabbit people.
Like Rabbit off of Winnie the Pooh.
More humanoid than that, but yeah. Rabbit folk, which I call them rabbit folk. The actual name for their race is Herringon, which is a weird name, and I wanted to separate myself from the actual source material, so I just call them rabbit folk. There's also owl folk, which is another bird race.
It's an owl person.
Yeah, it's an owl person. If you want to specifically play like an owl harpy, owl folk exists. It is the stat block that exists in the what's the name of the adventure? Strixhaven adventure that was released by D&D Beyond. So anyone can access it. Gnolls. Gnolls are hyena people. Gnolls are hyena people. They are a playable race in my game. The stat block I use is once again from Aloysius's Guide to Social Acceptance by Chris Zito. Gnolls are traditionally this very barbaric, basically automatically considered evil race. I decided, no, they're just going to be a group of... They're just going to be They're going to be more like orcs in my world, where it's like there are good ones, there are bad ones. They're kind of nomadic. They move around. They're a little bit tribal, but like they're not going to murder you for no reason.
Right.
Although I did go with the female gnolls are bigger than male gnolls because that's just a true fact in nature.
I mean, yeah. Which is weird.
Yeah, female hyenas are bigger, and there's also another fact about female hyenas that I'm not going to mention on this because let's be kid-friendly, shall we?
I think we're a long way from that, but okay.
You're not wrong. Yuan T. You guys have actually seen one of these. Dominic actually pointed it out fairly early. Hessick from the game from Hellside is a Yuan T. They are snake people. He is what's known as a Yuan T pureblood. He's like the least snaky. But once again, using Aloysius' guide to social acceptance, I also make available the more snaky versions of the Yuan Ti that everyone actually wants to play, because let's face it, people want to play a person with a long snake body and like snake arms. They don't want to play the person who's just a person with snake scales on their face.
Exactly. They want to have the body where they can have maneuverability.
Yes, exactly. They want to be able to they want to be able to like constrict somebody with their snake tail. I can't fault anybody for that. That's just cool.
Right. It's
Ne-
like you're standing there and you're like, "What'd you say?" And then next thing you know, you're choking them out and you're still standing there.
yeah. Next is the
Which
chitin.
is probably
Oh,
going to happen when we get back to our game because I mean we're in a bar.
well, to be fair, the Yuan-Ti you guys saw is just a normal pure blood. He doesn't have any. He's just a dude with snake scales on his face and snake eyes.
Yeah, but doesn't mean he can't choke somebody out while still standing there.
Well, I mean, you'll have a chance to talk to him. I mean, you'll honestly get a chance to talk to him. So, who knows? Maybe one of you will punch him out.
I have a feeling it's probably is all right. So it's either going to be me. I mean, it's most likely going to be me, but it's probably going to be me or Klaus.
I don't know. Klaus seems very single-minded on getting as much food as possible.
That is true.
So he might be too distracted by the feast.
But then again, I could use food to tempt Klaus to go punch him in the face.
It's a possibility. You guys get to roleplay that out next time. Next up is the chitin, or insect folk. Basically just bug people. There's multiple stat blocks I can use for these. If anybody's ever heard of Insectopia on the Unearthed Arcana Reddit, I can't remember who made it, and I don't have access to those folders right now, but that would be available. The already existing bug folk from D&D, who I can't remember the name of. They're like...
I've heard of Insectopia.
It's a common name, but the specific one that I know about is, I found on Unearthed Arcana.
Oh.
I'm trying to remember the name of the frickin'... Every time I try to remind myself of the name of these frickin' bugs, I think Gith, and I'm like, no, those are the, like, strange frog people from space that I don't have in my campaign because I don't have any space stuff in my campaign, so they wouldn't make any sense.
I mean, they could always come down. I mean, you know.
The reason I don't have the Gith in my campaign is because they are, like, really, really tied to, they're really heavily tied to the lore of the Forgotten Realms, and, like, I can't...
Dog legs.
It's very, very hard to pull them out of it and make them make sense in another campaign setting. Props to the people who can do it and make it work, but I have not figured out a way to make it work in my homebrew world yet, so I'm not going to try. Also, the name of the actual bug people from D&D 5e is Thrycreen. In the actual D&D world, they're kind of like giant ant people.
Yeah.
In my world, they can be any type of... They can really be any type of insect you want, because that's just cool. After them is the Arachne, which I have multiple stat blocks for this one. There is one by DM Tuz, but there's also another another by Christopher Zito from Aloysius' Guide to Social Acceptance. Which are... There's a Drider, there's the one that's literally just called the Arachne, both of those exist. So I'm just like, I'm gonna let both of those be available options for just spider people if somebody wants to play a spider person. And when I say spider person, I mostly mean
Spider-Man.
no, human from the waist up, spider body on the bottom.
Okay, Spider-Man with a few extra legs.
No, that happened. That was man spider. Remember?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true.
Man spider had a cool design, but good lord, was he?
He really did.
He had a great design. I'm sad he only showed up in Man Spider only showed up in like 2 or 3 issues. I don't remember how long that whole thing went on. I know in the TV show, like the animated TV show that was on like Fox back in the day. I don't know if you ever watched that one. It was like he only showed up in like 2 episodes.
2 episodes?
Yeah, it was like 2 episodes he showed up in, which again, I just liked his design. He was so cool looking. And it also played into the whole and also played into Peter Parker eventually meeting the frickin' X-Men from the original X-Men TV show that they've now rebooted on Disney Plus. I mean, that's frickin' awesome.
It's X-Men like 87.
X-Men, it's either 87 or 97. I think it's 97.
It's 87. No, it's 87.
Okay, you're probably right.
I want to say, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure it's 87.
One of us is right. I'm sure. After the Arachne are the Pachykin, which is a terrible name, and I wish I had a better one, but basically, it's elephant / mammoth, hippo, and rhino people. Yeah.
We call them trunk force.
Well, I mean, only 2 of them have a trunk. Hippos are just... Rhinos have a horn, and hippos have...
Tusks.
Yeah. I mean, in canon D&D, hippo people have guns, so...
Well, no.
Yeah, that's lovely.
In my D&D, they're just another group of people who exist in my world, because
No, what?
the GIF are very
Wow,
much...
man.
The GIF from canon D&D are very...
No,
They're another spacefaring thing, and I'm like, no thank you.
no, I'm wrong. Hippos got really big teeth.
Hippos do have very big teeth. Next up is the Earth sign, which you can probably figure out what that is. It's grizzly folk, polar folk, panda folk. There's bear people.
Hmm.
After that is the Saurians.
Alright, so on that last one, would a werebear be considered that, or would it be considered...
A werebear is considered a lycanthrope, even though lichen means wolf, but I'm not gonna... the correct term would be therianthrope, but... a werebear is a completely different thing. The Earth sign...
Okay.
An Earth sign could be mistaken for a werebear in bear form, but for the most part, they are just free-thinking, fully sentient, walking, talking bear people.
Okay.
Granted, grizzly folk are the ones you would run into most, being where you're from. Polar folk usually live in the cold lands, like in the deep parts of the cold lands. And panda folk obviously live in the eastern continent, known as Dawning East.
Hey man, I'm just saying, you walk into their village with a basket full of fish, and I mean, you got friends for life.
You're probably right. Next up is the Saurian race, which are dinosaur people. Just dinosaur people.
That kind of makes sense, given the name.
Granted, Saurians mostly live in Grand Wild and the Twisting Lands, and are not often seen outside of those places. But they come in different varieties. There's the Triceratops people, the T-Rex people, the Raptor people, the Ankylosaur people. I don't remember the name of the... I think I even have access to the document that gives me this stuff. But the Saurians are essentially if you type in Saurian race D&D 5e, it's probably the first one that'll pop up. Is the one that I'm using. I might be able to find it, but like, I don't have high hopes for that. Let's see what pops up eventually. But moving on from that, we go to the Underdark dwelling people. And one of these races I've already told you about, which is the Myconid, which are the mushroom people.
Ow.
But after that, we have two more races, the Drow and the Durgar. Drow are dark elves. They're elves that were cursed because of a thing they did in the past, and they were punished by being cast out of the light, essentially, and their bodies changing to match that.
Okay.
And the Duragar are the same thing, but for dwarves. It's been
So
about...
it's basically dark. In simplest terms, it's dark elves and dark dwarves.
Yes. There's also another race called the Snurfeblin, which are, or deep gnomes. Yes, the name is weird. Snurfeblin.
The little blue people.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, they kind of are little blue people. They're called deep gnomes. They're 3 feet tall, and they've got like dark skin and stuff. I haven't really come up with a reason deep gnomes exist yet, so I haven't really included them in my world. So, technically speaking, they're Underdark dwelling people too. I just don't have a reason for them to exist.
I mean, they need to snurf all day long, so I mean, come on now.
God, you're awful.
Da 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 da.
Da 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 la 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 la. You're the worst.
I know it.
Okay.
That's okay. The people love me for it, so it's all good.
Next up is the undead races.
Tell me they're not zombies.
Well, technically speaking, zombie is an option. The ghost, skeleton, and zombie options on this all come from Aloysius's Guide to Social Acceptance by Christopher Zito, because good lord did that book have a lot of races and species and lineages that just...
What's your terminology?
I know, I'm trying. They were good. Like, he did a great job on them, and so Ghost, Skeleton, Zombie are all pulled from Chris Zito's book, which again, available on Dungeon Masters Guild. Honestly, just look up Chris Zito on Dungeon Masters Guild. He's got a lot of stuff on there. Or go to Chris Zito's Patreon, because he could use the money, and he's a great artist, and he's really good at what he does. He's also a player in the Unexpectables, which I watch regularly. So
I'm gonna have to start watching those.
honestly, the Unexpectables is so good. The first campaign is a bit of a slow start, but once it hits, and I freaking love it. It's got a lot
That's
of
like most
comedy.
of the series I watch is so.
It's got a lot of comedy to start out with, so I mean, there's at least that. The last two undead races are known as the Dhampir and the Returned. Dhampir are what happens when a male vampire, manages to have a child with a human. So Blade.
Okay, yeah,
So
I
Blade.
remember that term. I knew that term.
I'm guessing you watched the Castlevania anime?
I have.
Yeah, that's what Alucard is.
That, and it was also on the movies Twilight.
Did they use the term Dhampir in
They
Twilight?
did. They did.
Really? I watched those movies. I don't remember them ever using that term.
If I'm
Um,
not mistaken, they did. I'm almost fairly sure they did.
right.
They didn't
The
use it a lot, but they did use it.
the
But yeah, the anime is where I got it from.
yeah. The Returned is a very versatile lineage. Technically speaking, you could be a lot of things with the Returned. You could be a flesh golem. You could be a suit of armor with a soul inside of it. You could be a ghost, skeleton, or zombie. The idea
So
is
pretty much you can be anything you want.
you basically, if it's undead, you can kind of be it with the Returned. The main theme of the Returned is that you have come back from the dead after dying. But one of the things I do with the Returned is I like to use it for revenants, angry souls that come back for revenge.
So
Solely
when
for revenge.
you're coming back as like something that's gonna wreak havoc. Like
Kinda,
I
yeah.
don't know.
The difference with revenants is that usually revenants just straight up can't die until the person that they have sworn vengeance on is dead.
And that's kind of scary to think about.
Yeah. Well, the thing is like you in so when they released a revenant race for D&D as like a playtest, they gave it the ability that it can drop to 0 and die, like if it fails three death saving throws. But after I think an hour, you get back
It
up.
regenerates.
Yeah, you just get back up after an hour. Basically, dying counts as a full rest for you.
So pretty much you don't die, you just get knocked out.
I mean, technically speaking, you're dead, but mechanically, yes. Um, the next races are the next group of races is yokai. The yokai races basically only appear in the Dawning East, which is basically the Asian continent in my world. Like, it's the Asian themed continent. Japanese, Chinese, maybe some Korean. I don't know. I know less about Korea than I know about China and Japan. But the yokai races are Kappa, which are again turtle people. If you know, do you know what a Kappa is?
Frat house?
No. That's funny though.
Like Zeta Kappa, yeah.
A Kappa is a turtle monster that likes cucumbers, lives in rivers and streams, and in mythology will fight you sumo style in an attempt to take the soul pearl out the back entrance.
Lovely.
Yeah, Kappa are a little weird. There's a couple of different versions of Kappa, like they're different sizes and stuff like that. Some are friendly, some are more friendly, some are less friendly. But yeah, Kappa exists. And the Kappa race that I use primarily was made by Gaijin Goomba on the DM's Guild. I mean, the dude like is a Japanophile. Of course he would make a decent yokai race.
Right.
There's also the Tanuki, also by Gaijin Goomba. Which do you know what a Tanuki is?
No.
Okay, so a Tanuki, an actual Tanuki is what is commonly known as a raccoon dog. It is an actual animal that lives and exists in Japan. But they supposedly have many like magical properties associated with them. Like being able to change their appearance and stuff like that. A lot of people confuse them for just standard raccoons. No, they are not. Tanuki are a different species. There's also some funky stuff they can do with certain parts of anatomy that I'm not going to get into. Because it's not quite safe for work. You still there?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay, you got really quiet and I was worried.
Sorry.
It's okay. I know I'm doing a lot of the talking, but that's because this is sort of a hyperfixation for me.
Well, I mean, I'm also learning a lot, truth be told.
Um, After that is the QB. I don't actually have a stat block for the QB yet, except for I do have something at least close to it in... Oh god, what was the name of it? The book is called... It's in the same vein as Helena's Guide to Monster Hunting. It just isn't, like, doesn't have the same name. It's Ryoko's Guide to the Yokai Realms. That's the name. It is a very cool... It's a very cool thing that, it adds kaiju to D&D. It adds kaiju to D&D.
Okay.
Yeah, it lets you take normal monsters and turn them into giant monsters that you have to figure out how to fight. It also adds in a couple of...
Kaijus are not easy to fight.
Huh?
So kaijus are not easy to fight, neither.
No, they're not, because you have to figure out the special ways to damage them and stuff like that. But if you kill them, you get to harvest them for parts and make weapons out of them.
That is true.
Yeah, just, I have a harvesting rules in my games from Helena's Guide to Monster Hunting. So when you guys kill something, you can harvest it for parts and possibly get a new weapon, maybe get some potions out of it. Really depends on how crazy you want to go with it. Yeah.
I'm going to go and tell you, Xylophone's going to be a heck of a scavenger.
I mean, let's hope, right?
Or at least I'm going to try.
The final race of the yokai is the Oni. Now, I have two Oni races that I use. One is from Gaijin Goomba, once again on Dungeon Masters Guild, which has like several different types of Oni in it, like a whole lot of them, from traditional to what you would consider the traditional Oni to weird, strange variants from different areas. There's also something called the Oni Born, which is from Ryoko's Guide to the Yokai Realms, which is a little bit more what I would do for an Oni, but I think they're both good, so I leave them both as options if someone says, hey, I want to play an Oni. And then there's the final category, because we have finally made it to the end of this document, is Veilborn, which goes back to the thing that I said earlier, which was, because shards of glass exist, and they let out planar energy from whatever plane they happen to be making contact with, it causes people to change over time, or just be born different from their parents. Like, genasi can just sort of happen between a human and an elf. Or just a human and a human, or anything. Like, it's just a thing that'll happen. The only one that I have not mentioned here to you that is on this list, because all of the other ones are just sort of here. I mean, there is one more Pactling that exists, which a Pactling is just a fancy way of saying Tiefling, right?
Right.
Pactlings come in Infernal, Abyssal, and Fey, which I've already mentioned to you. And they also come in what I call Outer, which is essentially... How do I explain Outer Pactlings? Do you know what Cthulhu is?
No,
You don't know what Cthulhu is?
not right offhand.
Okay. So, imagine if there was a giant monster.
You don't know the old god is?
Imagine if there was a giant monster that didn't have to kill you because just looking at it made you go insane.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Because your brain cannot physically
No.
comprehend its true form or power.
So it's basically like something mind controlling you.
It is definitely mind fuckery, I will give you that. If I'm on speaker, I apologize.
I mean, you're good.
But essentially, there are
They've heard
people.
words.
There are people who can just be born with these weird, like, psionic abilities that make them like, it makes people very nervous and upset because these people can, like, have tentacles for hair, or have extra eyes where they shouldn't have extra eyes, or have mouths in weird places. Like, it's very freaky.
Right.
The only other thing I haven't mentioned is the veil tethered. Veil tethered are very simple. You, the person who is veil tethered, was born with a strange connection to the veil itself, granting them unique abilities that normal people just don't have. It gives them it gives them an innate sense of how magic works and what magic is. Technically, in my setting, all sorcerers are technically veil tethered because their bodies are innately tapped into the veil where magic is pulled from in the first place. Yes, and that is it for this list. It's a long list.
It was quite a long list.
I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed that.
It kind of did, actually. I learned quite a bit.
I
Because
enjoyed.
I didn't know I didn't even know there could be that many species. I guess you could say.
Yeah, like I didn't think, like, honestly, I didn't think the list would be that big until I started separating them into categories based on, like, where they fall in, like, taxonomy, and I realized, oh wow, there's a lot more races here than I thought.
There is quite a bit.
Hey bro, could you give me a bottle of water?
But nothing wrong with that.
Honestly, I like the fact that I have so many options for, like, races and stuff. It's a little daunting sometimes, but, like, I'm glad the option's there, you know?
Right? It literally allows you to be anything and everything you want to be.
Yes, I like giving my players the ability to just pick something outlandish and just go with it. My brother has a character that he really wishes he could have played in Hellside, and honestly, I would have let him if it hadn't been the fact it just didn't fit into the scenario. The character is a skeleton. Just straight up a skeleton.
Yeah.
His name is Mr. Sweets.
I remember you talking about it, or y'all talking about it, or something like that.
Yeah, his name was Mr. Sweets. He was a wizard. I can't remember what type of wizard he decided to make him, but he was a wizard.
I thought he was a bard.
Oh yeah, bard. Bard, wizard, whichever one you wanted to go with. But he was essentially just this goofy skeleton dressed up like a noble gentleman. And yeah, his whole thing was like, it's like, I'm dead. What have I got to worry about? But I'm just like,
I mean, the worst he's got to worry about is falling apart.
right? I sincerely wanted to let him play this character, but I'm like, It just doesn't fit. I'm so sorry.
If I lose a leg, I'm just gonna pop another one in.
I was genuinely sorry that he couldn't play Mr. Sweets because he's just this fun, goofy character. Maybe if we do a one shot at some point, he can play him, get a feel for him a little bit. But like for now, he's just gonna sit on the back burner for who knows what else.
That
Let's
you
go
mean
to
sit?
school.
He's a power
Let's go
bonus in the
to
back
Alright.
corner.
His name's
Oh, so-
Lakota.
He's so cute.
school.
Yeah.
Oh. Also, we have I think this combined with the other video will be 2 hours worth of content, so that's amazing.
Yeah. Dang, it took 2 hours to go through that list.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Good lord. I'm glad I'm
Okay.
glad I decided to put this list together because like I can just if I absolutely need to, I can just send this to my players and say, "Hey, these are what you can pick from. Let me know."
Right.
The issue is a lot of them don't have like a D&D Beyond thing. The only thing I could possibly think of if I wanted to do this, if I wanted to do this with homebrew races and not have to deal with D&D Beyond, is I'd have to ask you guys to get, which I'm already gonna have to do that for whatever we do after Hellside. Excuse me, which looks like it's probably going to be. Actually, no, I'm not gonna say that because people are listening. I'm not. It'll be a surprise. It'll be a surprise.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is there's this website called Roll20, which is basically just a virtual tabletop that will let you play like a bunch of different tabletop role-playing games. And it's built for D&D 5e, but I think it's built so that you can put in homebrew races if you happen to have one, so you can just put in everything manually. The issue with that is, like, you have to put everything in manually,
Yeah, that's true.
which can be a gigantic pain. I found that out yesterday when I was testing out. I found out that Fabula Ultima, another tabletop RPG that I like, is actually available in. Fabula Ultima is actually available in Roll20. So I decided I'm gonna see what it's like to put a character sheet in here for Fabula Ultima, and yeah, it was a pain. It disagreed with me several times, but eventually I got it through and I put in an entire character sheet and got it to work.
Huh.
The character sheet turned out pretty good, and it rolls just fine. Just click a button, and voila, you can do stuff as character now.
Yeah.
Well, it's almost 8 o'clock, so I guess we should be winding down, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
It's about bedtime, boys. I mean, my 1-year-old fell asleep on my lap while I was swinging in the porch swing. But
Oh, that sounds adorable.
yeah, but he has so much freaking body, he's killing me.
All right. Well, I'm gonna let you go. Let's. If you want to sign off with me, be my guest. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you liked this and the previous video. I will probably release them as parts. If this is all one video, this is gonna be very stupid later. If you liked what you listened to, like and subscribe. Come back hopefully next Monday, or not Monday. Come back next Tuesday when the new video of Hellside will be posted, so you guys can enjoy the absolute shenanigans of my players.
Because it will be very interesting.
It will be very interesting. I'm so excited. Today was a bit of a letdown, but I'm glad we got to just kind of shoot the shit on Discord.
It's a Q&A.
No, it is not a Q&A, Steven.
I mean, it kind of was.
I mean, it was a Q&A for you and me. Like, you were asking me questions and I was answering. I did a lot of the talking, and I feel bad for that, but...
Well, I don't feel bad. I feel educated.
I appreciate that. All right. With that, I guess I'm going to say... Goodbye!
Goodbye, everybody. Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. And